The attacks on Paris were not a hoax. They were done by terrorists affiliated with ISIS. And what basically happened is the occultists who run society ordered them to strike on Friday the 13th for the significance of the date. And this order came in the form of Muslims. The reason why they use Muslim fundamentalists or radicals, if you will, is because they are the people with the heart to do it. Gang members and the mafia groups most likely would not carry out such attacks. And part of what gives away that we are talking about the occult here is the tactics that they use. Ask yourself, with all the weaponry they have, why don't they attack government buildings? Why civilians? This was a satanic act. And then, of course, there's the location of the terrorists themselves, which happens to be in the countries where Babylon, the Babylonian Empire, the Neo-Babylonian Empire, used to exist. Syria, Iraq, and alleged ties to Iran. You see, there's not much of a coincidence in life. The government has been studying propaganda, psychology, and covert experimentation on people for a long, long time. It did not begin with MK Ultra, MK Delta, Project Paperclip, Project Naomi, and all the sub-projects therein. It has been going on for a long, long time. The French, the Italians, the English, the Germans, the Americans are very much involved in this because they are the top level of the secret society structure. In a sense, ISIS is more righteous than America, but they are ultimately pawns being told what to do by the CIA, in turn being told what to do. The CIA is being told what to do by the occultists. ISIS is heavily infiltrated by the CIA and the different English or European intelligence agencies as well. MI5, MI6, and what have you. Then, of course, the Israeli Mossad obviously plays a role in this as well. For whose interest was this done? You know? I'm the top martial artist in America, and I'm telling you that gangs, organized crime, terrorists, and other criminal groups are controlled by secret societies. They use their symbols, they attack on significant dates, they move their drugs, sex trafficking, human trafficking, kidnapping are also done for the occult as well. Of course, these groups are interested in personal gain as well. But ultimately, this was a case of people who meant well being taken advantage of by occultists who are some of the most knowledgeable people in their respective ideology, philosophy, or religion. You see, the occult doesn't have an uncanny ability to infiltrate these groups. The occultists are the high-level people in society. In sociology, they would be given the highest number associated with their social status. These are the lowly dogs in society that plague us all. I know. They will never give me the credit as being the top martial artist in America. Even though I am over 100-0, even though sparring is the most relevant way to show who is the best, and even though I have offered $3,000 to whoever can beat me and $25 just to show, in the most populated state in the Union and the most competitive place to live for martial arts. See, what happens with your local street gangs is relevant and tied into this. What happens with organized crime is relevant and ties into this. And the biggest tragedy of all, you are all turning a blind eye to. You are so shocked when the Paris attacks take place. But when psychiatry kills over 500,000 people a year in Western countries alone with their harmful psychotropic medications, where is the news coverage? I only find it on RT because it is mainly the West and Israel doing it. The Zionists who fund Israel and are heavily involved in AIPAC and Israeli lobbies who control the tech sector, the pharmaceutical sector, the media, and more, are heavily involved in the pharmaceutical industry and the distribution of deadly psychiatric medications. And do not forget the neurological disorders, the dysfunction of the body that also results from psychiatric medications. These ignominious, unprincipled, ultra-vile villains stop at nothing. Their greed stops at nothing. They have an agenda. Pike spelled it out for you in his letters to, I believe it was Giuseppe Manzini in 1871, when he said, we are going to turn the atheist against the Christian while turning Islam against political Zionism. And when the smoke clears, the pure Luciferian doctrine will be brought in. And while all this goes on, you see the occult. These people value intellect over quote-unquote superstition. But truly it is perceived intellect over spiritual truths. They are Satanists. Part of being a Satanist is lying for personal gain. Part of being a Satanist is to promote godless philosophies. Racism, hating God's creation. Feminism, breaking down God's family, destroying what God has joined. Aborting children. Homosexuality. Sins that have to do with creation and being an unrepentant sinner. When you call yourself something, you are an unrepentant sinner. When gays call themselves gay, they are saying that they are an unrepentant sinner and they do not mean to change it. And that they have, quote-unquote, accepted being an unrepentant sinner. Criminality. You see this with mafia movies and countless mafia movies. They promote criminality. Gangs and gangster rap and things of this nature. And Satanism. Of course, they promote Satanism in all of its forms. Homosexual Satanism, atheistic Satanism, and satanic feminism. If you do not see that I am right, then you are either a complete idiot or you just have not been paying attention. The occult has been on the rise for quite some time. And the French are heavily involved. Jacques de Molay, the Templars, who, before aligning themselves to the Catholic Church, were an ancient mystery society, and after aligning themselves to the Catholic Church, just like all the other pagans, used Christianity as a cover for their true religion, the occult, and things of a quote-unquote esoteric nature. Esotericism. The Babylonian mysteries. So should any of you be surprised when it is people from the region or who were indoctrinated in the regions where Babylon once thrived, who took great care to meticulously plan out the psychological reaction of the masses by using tactics which would induce Islamophobia and make the radicals feel the need to strike back against Islam, and Islam in turn the need to strike back against their unscrupulous oppressors in Israel and America. More attacks will come. It will get worse, not better. Because this is a Masonic plan, an agenda that has been taking place since before Weishaupt. Now, many will say this is conspiracy theory, but those of us who are familiar with the criminal underworld, we know very well this is all fact. We know very well that the people really calling shots here are occultists. And the Muslim occultists who are relaying their messages are just part of the managerial class, which white people make up the most. And on the top level, you have atheistic people, atheistic Satanists of Jewish descent, and white occultists, especially in the royal family. Make no mistake, these tragic attacks are the result of two things. One, a very blatant occult agenda that flows from secret societies. And two, the unforgivable indifference of the masses and a lack of surgical strikes against those responsible. Perhaps this is poetic justice, because the same average people, the same civilians, the same people who are allowing this elaborate process of covert manipulation, covert experimentation, covert harassment, clandestine intervention by surreptitious societies to take place, are the same average Joes who are being victimized by it. And of course, they will go after the bait instead of the lowly, sniveling Satanists who are holding the fishing rod. They are satanic fishers of men. And you people have been fooled once again. And you know who is the stupidest by the stupid responses they will make to this blatant act of Satanism on Friday the 13th. Thank you. one far away. Need I remind you that feminism, homosexuality, Satanism, and the occult are being pushed by Hollywood, the media, celebrities, and more. And they're not exactly being punished for it. That is a dead giveaway that the old money that rules society wants you to believe in these things. As Tupac has said, they don't give a fuck about us. Michael Jackson said, they don't really care about us. And I'm trying to tell you, they don't even begin to care about us. It is their philosophies to make a killing, to make money killing us. Those scumbags. Long ago, the world had its problems. But men fought for honor. They had families that they took care of. Feminism has caused the destruction of the family, along with the comprador elite, or the status quo, along with eugenicists, people who believe in population control, and homosexuals who promote marriages and relationships that help to limit the population. Research has shown that when people are educated, they limit their family size all by themselves. Our children are being drugged legally and illegally with harmful drugs that kill them. 1 in 3 foster children is on harmful psychotropic, toxic psychiatric medications. Fabrications, unholy political alliances, and greed fuel the pharmaceutical sector, especially when it comes to psychiatry and psychiatric medications. Women are taught by feminists to put themselves above the family, above their children, and to pursue their own careers and their own desires. They are taught to use their pussy power and to sleep with the rich, who almost certainly got that way from deceit, mischief, trickery, and evil. Mental health says that hypergamy is good for society. Evolutionary psychology pushes these ideas. The media has convinced you to kill your children, to sleep around, not to get married, while promoting gay marriage, so that the type of person who would get married would be one that sees it their way. We live in a society where Satanism, by definition, is rampant, and the symbols of Satanists are everywhere, hidden in plain view. The American Birth Control League, the American Eugenics Society, and how it turned into Planned Parenthood, the wolf in sheep's clothing symbol on the coat of arms of the Fabian Society, and how they changed it over time. Democrats pretend that the Ku Klux Klan was not democratic, and that Martin Luther King was not a Republican. The same racist elements that existed in both parties still exist today. homoerotic symbolism and homosexual rituals are to be found in the Scottish Rite, which is the most influential sector of Freemasonry. Our children, our soldiers, political prisoners are being preyed upon by predatory homosexuals. The rainbow symbol of Lucifer is being utilized by the LGBT movement as satanic feminists openly brag that Lucifer is their savior. People are forced on medications which violate their civil rights and their constitutional rights without a fair trial of their peers, of people who see things the same way they do, without having a fair trial, which means fair and balanced minds judge. The evidence is falsified and exaggerated. Sane people are accused of being a threat to themselves and to others. Sane people are accused of having mental illness. And we are headed in a direction where pseudoscience and falsified science overlap. Brain scans, which are inconclusive, will be said to be conclusive. Brain scans of political dissidents will be doctored to suit the needs of the oppressive state. The state of the Union has always been oppression. Women are shunning good men in favor of wicked ones. The reproductive cycles of humans have been subverted, infiltrated by those whose philosophies are not humane, but reflect the desires and indoctrination of the plutocracy. Our children are to suffer so that people can enjoy and indulge in materialism and selfishness. Men are forced to sleep around with women when they get the chance because they know that women have not made themselves in a way that can be respected. The problems of society are disproportionately caused by women when you consider how reproduction affects the political environment, the social environment, the economic environment of society. Women get over on men more in the long term. And women are the only ones who can change this. If men stop dating women, all they will do is feed into population control. And if they cite that women are slutty and are feminist as the reasons, this almost certainly will just lead to a rise in lesbianism and population control, and further the mind control agenda of the kleptocracy. Women will not respond well to such demands when they are already pushing the despicable falsehood that there is a patriarchy that oppresses women. For men to then turn around and demand that women carry themselves with respect and stop being sluts, generally speaking, that would not solve the problem. Therefore, women have to make themselves respectable. They have to reconnect with the one true God. Otherwise, the family will continue to be broken. Children will continually be aborted at high rates, unnecessarily. Children will continue to turn to drugs and the influences that are to be found elsewhere, other than in a responsible home. When parents do not raise their children, criminals and the criminal government does. When parents do not set their children on the right path of freedom, impeccable manners, and careful perception, they become slaves to the despicable ideologies of satanic and godless heathens. They do not have careful perception. They become naive and gullible, trusting those who should not be trusted. They become unempathetic to the sufferings of their fellow man, women, and children. They assist the New World Order in oppressing the righteous instead of standing with them. The sociological environment that we have right now is a result of men's bad judgment and women's worse judgment. And our kids are to suffer until we admit to ourselves as a people these self-evident truths. You know which sex is more to blame by who is getting over more on the other sex in the long term. Not short-term cheating, but in the long term. And who could solve the problem. There lies the blame. There lies the majority of the blame. Women will try to counter and say something stupid like, well, you know, men cheat on women all the time. Men are bigger players. Men are bigger criminals. It is true, because women are more conformist, which ultimately is the more hazardous philosophy to have. So they do not commit crime as often because they are cowardly, not because they are more righteous. They like throwing fits, but they don't like going through with how they feel as much as men do, because men are more manly, they are more brave, they are more strong, they are more aggressive, they are more likely to take things into their own hands. Thus, they are disproportionately the criminals in the eyes of the law. But there was a woman who dated the man who was the father of that criminal. There was a woman who raised, or was supposed to raise, that criminal. And there is a woman who will date and be the single mother of that criminal's child. That's why we say son of a bitch instead of son of an asshole. And women say it too, because we all know deep down that women are to blame mostly for the types of people we have in society. Therefore, the answer, my sisters, is not to rebel against God and break down the family so you can indulge in materialism and get some kind of phony respect from those who lack basic insight and even the most common of common sense. The answer is to make yourself respectable, so that a man being a head of the household really does not mean much, because a man wants to please his beloved wife. A man wants to do what is best for his beloved wife and his beloved family. Too long have we stood aside and let the philosophies of the New World Order push us around, while people blame the patriarchy, when the most righteous revolutionaries believed in a spiritual patriarchy, which is the most powerful patriarchy of all. The devil supports gay rights. The devil supports feminism. The devil wants to break down the family, drug God's creations, and do everything else he can out of spite for what the Lord has instituted and joined. I love humanity. I love men and women as God's creation. But I hate the sin
and I will stand against the sin, and I will rebuke all the sinners and urge them to repent. Stand with me, and not the spiritual bottom feeders. Let's do what's best for society, the planet, and our children. Let's not believe falsifications, fabrications, lies, falsehoods, treachery, and deceit. Let us come together and defeat the New World Order.
Carry out such attacks. And part of what gives away that we are talking about the occult here is the tactics that they use. Ask yourself, with all the weaponry they have, why don't they attack government buildings? Why civilians? This was a satanic act. And then, of course, there's the location of the terrorists themselves, which happens to be in the countries where Babylon, the Babylonian Empire, the Neo-Babylonian Empire, used to exist. Syria, Iraq, and alleged ties to Iran. You see, there's not much of a coincidence in life, America. But they are ultimately pawns being told what to do by the CIA, in turn being told what to do. The CIA is being told what to do by the occultists. ISIS is heavily infiltrated by the CIA and the different English or European intelligence agencies as well. MI5, MI6, and what have you. Then, of course, the Israeli Mossad obviously plays a role in this as well. For whose interest was this done? You know? I'm the top martial artist in America. The government has been studying propaganda, psychology, and covert experimentation on people for a long, long time. It did not begin with MK Ultra, MK Delta, Project Paperclip, Project Naomi, and all the sub-projects therein. It has been going on for a long, long time. The French, the Italians, the English, the Germans, the Americans are very much involved in this because they are the top level of the secret society structure. In a sense, ISIS is more righteous than America. The attacks on Paris were not a hoax. They were done by terrorists affiliated with ISIS. And what basically happened is the occultists who run society ordered them to strike on Friday the 13th for the significance of the date. And this order came in the form of Muslims. The reason why they use Muslim fundamentalists or radicals, if you will, is because they are the people with the heart to do it. Gang members and the mafia groups most likely would not. And I'm telling you that gangs, organized crime, terrorists, and other criminal groups are controlled by secret societies. They use their symbols, they attack on significant dates, they move their drugs, sex trafficking, human trafficking, kidnapping are also done for the occult as well. Of course, these groups are interested in personal gain as well. But ultimately, this was a case of people who meant well being taken advantage of by occultists who are some of the most knowledgeable